means a lot to us that you would take your time. We cherish the moments that we get to spend with our elected representatives. Help me welcome Wesley Hunt, Congressman from Texas.
Thank you. I tell you what, sir, I got to take you on the road with me. That's the greatest introduction I've ever had. Thank you all so much for having me. It is truly an honor to be here. Flew in here this morning. The weather here is a tad bit different than it is in Houston, Texas. But I'll take it because I'm filled with your warmth. And your warmth is the time that you would choose to take to spend time with a congressman and somebody that maybe you can't vote for me, but I can for damn sure vote for you. The greatest treasure on this earth, it's not money, it's not gold, it's time. Because we have a finite amount of time that God gave us on this earth. And so whenever I am surrounded by my brave patriots and brave fellow Americans on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon in venues like this to devise ways to get our country back, I cannot imagine a better way to spend our time. And for that, I'm honored by you. Thank you for having me. Frederick Douglass famously said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." Those who profess freedom yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. The struggle may be a moral one or a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but there must be a struggle, for power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. That quote starts off with, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." We have struggled mightily as a country for the past 4 years. But Donald John Trump and the brave patriots in this room will be the progress on November 5th, 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the greatest country in the world. We live in the greatest country in the world because of brave patriots like you, my fellow pilot, my Huey guy, that we will finish our conversation, sir. Thank you for your service. We live in the greatest country in the world because of brave patriots that want to raise their hands and say, "I will defend this country against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, even if it means my life." What's not on my bio is the thing that I am most proud of, and that is my family. My dad's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, served 23 years in the military. My sister went to West Point in my family first, West Point class of 93, served 21 years active duty. I went to West Point, hold your applause, because I have to get to my brother next. I served 8 years active duty as an Apache pilot, flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad, 2 tours of duty in Saudi Arabia, and then I had 1 more tour of duty at Cornell University. I call it combat because it was really cold and really liberal. And the greatest accomplishment is walking out of Cornell being more conservative than when I walked in. My brother and my best friend is 10 months and 8 days my junior. He is also a West Point graduate. However, there's always one person in the family that just makes bad decisions. He is the black sheep in my family, literally and figuratively. He chose to go to West Point, and then he went to the Navy. Yeah. Come on. All you Navy guys out there. All you Navy guys. After that, he went to Harvard Business School, where he earned his advanced degree, also a strong conservative like his big brother, and now lives in Houston, Texas with his family. There's about 60 years worth of military service just in my immediate family. You don't get 3 children that go to West Point, and at one point, my brother, sister, and I all served in Iraq in 2006 for 2 months at the exact same time. We had a praying mother and a strong Christian background, a champion for his Baptist church that prayed for us every single day for our return to come home in one piece. And for whatever reason, God chose us to come home, and that is why I stand before you today. Because many of my classmates did not make it home. And by the way, my 14 classmates that did not make it home, there were 14 white guys. And when they gave their last full measure, they didn't do it for black people or for white people or for Asian people or for Hispanic people. They did it for Americans. Thank you, please. I wear a bracelet every single day. It's with me today. It's David Frazier. David Frazier was a good friend of mine. He was killed on November 26, 2006 on his last mission. The greatest honor of my life was when his parents asked me to give his eulogy at the ripe old age of 25 years old. You see, what's important for us is that we continue to find ways to serve for them since they are no longer here to serve for themselves. That's it. We're the greatest country in the world because my great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation. He was born on Rosedown Plantation, about 33 miles north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You know, Rosedown Plantation is still there today. 3 of his great-great-grandchildren went to West Point. 3 of his great-great-grandchildren earned multiple master's degrees from Ivy League schools. 1 of his great-great-grandchildren stands before you today as a United States Congressman in a white majority district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I outperformed him, and I tell him all the time. I won by 30 points, and again, a white majority district in Houston, Texas. Now, I tell you that because I do like bragging about how I outperform the boss all the time. But I tell you that because in my community in Houston, Texas, I have the honor of living Dr. Martin Luther King's dream every day. I'm literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. And I am sick and tired of the left trying to divide us based on the way that we look. For this is a meritocracy that we live in, and we've come a long way. And we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But this is God's country. In God we trust, e pluribus unum. This is God's country. He has chosen us to continue to fight for the growth and the advancement that we have seen for the past few generations. That same growth of us coming together, where a great-great-grandson of a slave can be speaking to you in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is the kind of growth we need for the future. And the left wants to destroy that. You see, they want to brainwash us. You see, they want us to see race and color and creed first. I don't see that. What I see is that American flag hat and Uncle Sam hat you have on, man. What I see is red, white, and blue. For I am a veteran. I am a combat veteran. I am a West Point grad. I am a husband. I am a father. I am a son. I am a congressman. I am all of these things before you get to me being black. And by the way, I'm black and I'm proud. However, I'm American and I am prouder. One of my favorite senators is from Louisiana, John Kennedy. I don't know if y'all follow him. But John Kennedy, he's a really good follower. He is an absolute riot. He leaves the left in knots. He's absolutely outstanding. I was watching one of his hearings one day, and I couldn't imagine a better articulation of the way this current administration can be described. He said, and I quote, "The Biden administration sucks." I mean, isn't easy wrong? Yeah, that's the best way to sum it up, right? This is the absolute definition of abject failure. I've never seen anything worse in my entire lifetime. Now, what we are witnessing at our southern border under this administration is un-American. It's an abomination. We've had over 100,000 of our Americans that were killed by fentanyl in the last few years. Now, I'm sure you all saw the words from your fearless governor in the last couple of days. Excuse me for calling them out. I'm a combat veteran, so I can only be blunt. What a coward. How dare you allow your fellow citizens and your fellow Americans and the people in your state be killed from fentanyl in an open border, and you don't have the audacity to stand up and say something and lead about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't give a Hoover damn if you're a Republican or not, or a Democrat or not. We are all Americans, and it is your job to lead and not pass the buck and not make excuses for Mayorkas and not make excuses for the failed policies of this administration. You should stand up and defend the people that you are sworn to protect. She's failed us. And I pray that you people are paying attention and you vote her out. This is the worst economy I have seen in my entire lifetime. Inflation is destroying us. I'm going to read you a few stats because I know you all are feeling this. Eggs are up 50%, gas is up 48%, airfare is up 33%, energy prices are historic, and rent is up 21%. Do you know what I did for my wife for Valentine's Day this last year? I went to the grocery store and paid for groceries because they're so expensive. And I came home, she said, honey, you really do love me and Biden's America, don't you? This is absolute insanity. This is the unsafest that we've been in this entire country. We are literally on the verge of World War III. We don't feel comfortable leaving our homes. That's what happens when you have 10 million people enter this country illegally and we don't know who they are. Think about that. We have a border czar, Kamala Harris. Oh, this is, I knew I'm in a good, I love this crowd. Y'all are wonderful. We have a border czar that hasn't even been to the border. And as a military guy, the first thing you do as a leader is show up. Easy. Here's the problem. Go show up to try to solve the problem, devise ways to fix the problem. But when you don't even show up, when you've been put in charge of something, I can't imagine what kind of leader this is. Joe Biden has the lowest approval rating of any president that we have seen in modern history at this point in his presidency. Kamala Harris has the worst approval rating for a vice president than any vice president in the history of this country. Wait. And while Dick Cheney was vice president, we're talking about the Cheney, he shot somebody. Do you know how hard you have to try to beat that? That's the bad news. The good news is, well, President Trump is on the way. I have a 5-year-old at home, Victoria, Olivia, my little 3-year-old, who belongs on a terrorist watch list. I love her to death, but oh my gosh. And I got my 1-year-old sitting at home right now. And the reason why I got on a plane to come speak to you all today is unfortunately President Trump couldn't be here, so he sent me. A distant second from what he would be, of course. But it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be away from my young kids because I know I am doing and playing my part to make their lives better for the future. And what I know, if there is anything that I can do to elect Donald Trump and make him the president, I know that I'm leaving this country better than I found it. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our mandate. That's our goal. That's our job. We have a finite amount of time to live on this earth. The most important, most precious things that we have are our children. It is incumbent upon us to work and fight tooth and nail to fight the left from destroying their legacy. I don't know if y'all were paying attention last week, but more Ukraine aid was sent. We are now up to about $220 billion of your taxpayers going to Ukraine. By the way, we are at a $2 trillion annual deficit. We are $35 trillion in debt. And we're going to pass this on to our children and to our grandchildren. And I watched Democrats on the House floor wave the Ukrainian flag in our Capitol. Disgusting. The only flag that you wave in our Capitol is that one. We don't fight for Ukraine's borders, we fight for our borders. But you know how you stop this from happening? Do you know how you stop from spending $210 trillion? Do you know how you do that? By having a strong leader like President Trump. Because if you recall, we weren't having these conversations. We weren't talking about World War III. We weren't talking about Hamas attacking Israel. We weren't talking about Iran having a nuclear weapon. We were not talking about barbecue in Haiti. We weren't having any of these kinds of conversations because people respected them. We were talking about mean tweets that I thought were kind of funny personally. And we missed those mean tweets. For I'd much rather have those than to be spending $200 billion on other countries when we need to be spending it on this country. One of my favorite West Point stories, and I got lots of them because my whole family went to West Point, is there is a monument. It's called Trophy Point or Battle Monument. It is absolutely majestic. It overlooks the Hudson River as it makes a meandering western bend as you head down to New York City. At one point, it was the largest piece of granite ever erected in the history of the world. Trophy Point is surrounded by Civil War era cannons that are buried into the ground muzzle first. Why? There was a time in this country where if you were a West Point graduate, and depending on what side of the country you were from, if you were from the North and you went to West Point, you entered a country at war during the Civil War and you fought for the North. If you were from the South, you fought from the South. Imagine going to West Point for 4 years and serving with your fellow classmates, and you ate together and you trained together and you entered a country at war. And then you were forced to kill your fellow Americans and your fellow classmates. Yep. Think about that. When the Civil War was over, the reason why those cannons, those Civil War era cannons, are buried into the ground muzzle first is to commemorate the idea of Americans never aiming our cannons toward other Americans again. Much to my chagrin, and unfortunately, the left has dug those cannons up and they are now pointing them at President Trump. It is up to us to grab those cannons from the left and put them back in the ground where they belong. And I thank God that President Trump is strong enough to handle all this. I thank God that God has given him the resolve to take all of this on. And a couple of months ago, I had the honor of flying on his plane with him from Bedminster, New Jersey to Iowa. It's a really nice plane. A really nice plane. You know what he told me? He said, Wesley, don't worry about me. Because they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just standing in their way. No truer words have ever been spoken. And that is why he won 23 of the first 25 states in our primary, because we the people understand what is necessary for us to save our republic. We are 4 years away from losing America. And we need somebody to step in here on day one. I don't need to find out where the bathrooms are. I don't need on-the-job training. We need day one, a leader to overturn these failed policies that we have seen from Joe Biden for this past 4 years. And President Trump is the man to do just that. It's really nice to see the Republican Party finally coalescing around this man. You see, I was the first congressman to endorse President Trump when he announced, because I could not wait to return the favor and return the loyalty that he has shown me and he has shown to this country. We have a binary choice. It's either Joe Biden, who, by the way, if he were here, couldn't figure out how to get off this stage. And the greatest existential threat to this country are a flight of stairs and some ice cream. And either we can choose that, or we can choose border security. We can choose to have our economy back and lower inflation. We can choose to be safe again. We can prevent World War III. We had it good. Now it's bad. Let's make it good again. Roosevelt in his Man in the Arena speech famously said, "It is not the critic that counts, nor how the man points out how the strong man stumbles, nor how the doer of deeds could have done them better. But the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who actually strives to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms and the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, even if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls that neither know victory nor defeat." I implore you all to join the man in the arena, Donald Trump. And I will end with this. I love this country. I love my country. I'm willing to die for this country. I'm one of those people that raised my hand to defend this country, and I'm willing to die for every single American in this room. And I know that maybe you wouldn't die for me in the same accord, but that's why I put on the uniform, and that's why I raised my hand. And that's why I continue to fight for you in the halls of Congress. And that's why I view this as another combat deployment, to continue to serve you, the people. I do that because this is a country that survived a civil war where we killed hundreds of thousands of our own countrymen in the name of slavery, and we made it. And here we are, standing strong as a nation. This is a country that battled through World War I and World War II. You see, we are the country that ridded the world of fascism. And the only reason why the international language is not German is because of us. You're welcome, world. And yet here we are still standing tall as a country and as a people and as fellow Americans. This is a country that went to the Vietnam War. We had brave men that served their country in Vietnam and returned home to a country in turmoil and were spat on by fellow Americans when they returned home. And I came home to a hero's welcome. God bless those Vietnam veterans, and thank you so much for your service. You were never given the proper thank you. So here I am now thanking you, giving you what you are due. And yet here we are standing still, strong as a nation in spite those very difficult times. This is a country that went through 9/11. And keep in mind, I was a sophomore at West Point when 9/11 happened, just a few miles north of New York City. Do you know after 9/11, you could not go online and find an American flag to buy because they were all sold out? That's this country. And yet here we stand, strong together as a nation, as a people. And if we could survive all of that, I promise you, we will survive Joe Biden. There is no race, there is no color, there is no creed. There's only Americans in this room. That's all I see in this room, actually. And I've had the honor to travel around the country on behalf of President Trump, thank God. And I'm constantly reminded and reinvigorated as to why we do what we do and what we fight for. Because of the fellow Americans in this room. God has truly blessed this nation with every resource necessary, with God-fearing people, a sense of patriotism, and a sense of duty, honor, and country that can only be imbued and can only be put together by God himself. That's what makes this place so different. That's what makes this place so special. And if people would spend just one day in another country, especially those that want to say death to America, I say to them, if you don't like it and if you don't love it, well, bye. November the 5th is coming. We need every last one of you to show up in force. But what I know about this country is the day is always darkest before the dawn. And Americans always figure it out, because as I just gave that little brief history lesson, this ain't our first rodeo, and we've been far worse off. But that doesn't mean we rest on our laurels and rely on other people to do the dirty work. It's our job to save our nation, and I know we will. God bless President Trump. God bless you. And may God continue to bless what I know is the greatest country in the world, these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Great. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Let me know if I can do anything.
Thank y'all very much.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you.